Chaitanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Krishna Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Krishnavanu Sute Devi Kanamani Devi Welcome to the Pando Shri Radha Shri Govindevo Yastari Visegya Manasmarami Shriman Rasarasaramri Vamshivata Tadastiraha Karshan Venu Sanayogi Gopinata Shri Sunaha Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Parivi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Tam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Surupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shakyam Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Tavanala Sama
26.
Brahmode Jayusha Koi Vindavana Nata Shakshani Hari Sevakai Seva Susiddhi Kare Anise Guru Charana Kamala Vanise Guru Charana Kamala Vanise Guru Charana Kamala Vanise Guru Charana Kamala Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva.
Page 23.
Jay, you ready to do a lot of low chant songs today? Yeah, I have 3 of them.
23. Krishna iti chaturmukha maya Krishna seva
Namaste Narayane Ramati Narayasya Paramase Sisya Bodhiyamni Karapore Akshodya Sisya Jaya Tirthanane Parichaya Paradase Jnana Sindhutare Mahavaite Daya Paradasa Vidya Rajendra Uilo Sahavate Mahara Kimpara Jaya Dharmanane Parichaya Parampara Bhavamate Jaya Dharma Dase Jati Shipurushatoma Sabhate Prananya Tirtasuri Yasa Tirtatara Rasa Lakshmi Pati Vyasa Rasa Tahorte Mada Vendra Puri Madhavendra Puri Varasisha Varashishkara Nityananda Shri Advaita Vidu Ishvara Puri Kedamya Toyena Shri Chaitanya Guru Gora Mahaprabhu Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Namayan Radharani Krishna Rajivana Shambhala Priyampara Shri Sarupa Damodara Goswami Rupa Sanatana Rupa Priya Mahajana Shri Radha Jaya Priya Kali Krishna Dasa Krishna Dasa Priya Varanara Sama Seva Kali Jaya Vishwanatha Vishwanatha Bhakta Sapta Kala Deva Jaganatha Karaviya Shivati Vinoda Mahabhadra Bhakta Vara Shivara Kishara Hari Vajana Sekalamora Shiva Shavana Vihara Sada Seva Sevaka Tahara Jayanta Dasanama Prabhupada Antaranga Swarupa Rupanuga Vidava Bhakta Siddha Jnana Gauriya Vedanta Veta Maya Vada Brahmavansa Gauravani Pasharodana Gauravani Bhakti Vedanta Swami Guraiva Prabhupada Dhamma
Let's do the other one first.
Which one? Shri Radha Govinda ki jai. Shri Shri Gauritai ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai.
Page 94.
What's that?
Yellow Gaurasani. It's like 12 verses.
What's page?
94. Shows Kaviraj.
It's by Lorchen?
Yeah.
Okay. 94.
Yes, I remember. I remember your voice. It's a different hair, but
Well, I think we're going to sing all, we should sing it together.
Oh.
It doesn't sound good.
What are we on?
94.
Lorchen Das
We're
Thakur.
on Locha Das Thakur.
Does anybody know any tune besides the morning tune? Because it's a very pretty song.
Which song? Hello, Goda Rasta Nadi?
Yeah, does anybody know? Okay. Right. Can you put the TV on? Didi's and can you organize the mics things? Chay's gonna lead us in that. Okay.
Hare
Someone else wants to read?
Somebody else want to sing? No? Okay.
I would start her. Page 82. Do you want to sing out church?
No.
No?
Okay.
It's all yours. Who wants to sing? No? Okay.
Hari
Chandak songs. And then we have a few Jayadev songs too.
Mm.
There's
Next one is Nitai Gaur Nam. You want to do that one, Kathy, or anybody? Hmm?
Code of Paramahansa,
Oh, yeah.
860.
So then there's Vitai Gorna by them. Who would like to sing that?
Huh? 92?
Which are your brother and
She does.
Oh, really? Okay.
Anyone?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And he's getting forced. Whether he wants to or not.
Instead of
Call out the mercy.
that really happening to all the meat. Nitai Gaurana Mananderatam Jai Jana Nahi Noya Nitai Gaurana Mananderatam Jai Jana Nahi Noya Thare Jamara Thore Noye Jayo Thare Jamara Thore Noye Jayo Noroke Jubaya Taya Noroke Jubaya Taya Tulasi Raharo Napare Jejara Jabalaye Vasatara Tulasi Rahara Napare Jejara Jabalaye Vasatara Tilakatharana Nakare Jejana Tilakatharana Nakare Jejana Hridaye Janamadhara Hridaye Janamadhara Naloya Harina Vidita Reva Amara Bhashanda Mati Naloya Harina Vidita Reva Amara Bhashanda Mati Vaishnava Sevana Nakare Jana Vaishnava Sevana Nakare Jana Ihare Tahara Gati Guru Mantra Sara Kara Evar Prajite Hoive Asa Jave Sarvaguna Pave Hoive Krishna Daso Edasa Nochana Bore Anukshana Nitai Gaura Guna Gausuke Edasa Nochana Bore Anukshana Nitai Gaura Guna Gausuke Era Sekara Ratina Hoilo Era Sekara Ratina Shuri Kare Tara Muke Shuri Kare Tara Muke Jaya Nitara Jaya Ko Jaya Nitara Jaya Ko Gaura
Those who have no attachment for the nectar of line paste and soot smeared on their faces.
Okay, so then there's one of Krishna by him. Then we can go on to Jai Guru Swami. Bhaju Bhaja Hari. Who wants to sing that?
Which one?
Page 136, Bhajo Bhajo Hari. Anyone?
I think Vedanta Sutra wants to sing this.
He does.
I'm trying to see if I ever heard it before. You can sing the same melody. I've never sang this
On page 136.
same melody for the morning.
What's it tune?
Bajo bajo hari manade rakori muke bolo tarana. Bajo bajo hari. You want?
Okay, but wait, you need a mic.
Mike,
Wait.
who's gonna sing? Bajo bajo hari manade rakori muke bolo tarana. Bajo bajo hari manade rakori muke bolo tarana. Prajnanam dana dopi prana. Prajnanam dana dopi prana. Anamokam cha. Bhuvanamokam cha. Kokonamarite kemune sarite Vishama shamana grape. Vishama shamana grape. Yara pratape bhuvana kanta. Pratape bhuvana kanta. Jani marani pate. Kuladana kaya unnata haya apanate jana bhago. Kuladana kaya unnata haya apanate jana bhago. Shamanera dite doripaya hate. Shamanera dite doripaya hate. Yakari chokada. Ariyakari chokada. Shiva jati jati. Shiva nicha jati. Jai hari nahi kaje. Shiva jati sati. Shiva nicha jati. Jai hari nahi kaje. Sabejananiya brahmiya Sabejananiya brahmiya Bhavanara tunase Bhavanara tunase Edase lochana Bhavyanukshana Ishaye jana magelo Vedasa lochana Bhavyanukshana Ishaye jana magelo Harina bhajilo Ishaye Harina bhajilo Ishaye bhajilo Hare Rama
He knows all the songs.
Shri Kamala? Page what?
Which one?
Now, look at that couple to drive.
Jai.
You want to see that?
352.
What's Sita Kamala?
What?
Maybe you don't know that.
Huh? 352.
Oh, Dina Bandhu didn't sing this one.
And then Kalaya?
What song?
Shita Kamala. 352. Mangala Gita. 352.
How are you sure? I had none.
One song.
People run away when I'm street song. Also, I love photography.
Have you been able
You play
to
the
sing?
donga or what?
Have you been able to sing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought Jay wanted to sing it though.
Oh, where is she?
When you buy something, it's not
No.
the same way.
Mike?
From your cell phone,
Oh.
smartphone, you listen to the
Sita Kamala,
sing
Sita Kamala, Kucha Mandala, Dhrita Kundala.
Sita Kamala, Kucha Mandala, Sita Kundala.
Kalita Lalita Banamala,
Kalita
Jaya Jaya Deva Hare, Jaya Radhe Krishna Govinda Gopala, Nanda Dukala, Jashoda Dukala, Jaya Jaya Deva Hare. Mani Mandala Mandala Bharatandana Mani Ganamana Sahansa Jaya Jaya Deva Hare Mani Ganamana Sahansa Jaya Jaya Jai Radhe Krishna Govinda Gopal Nanda Dulala Jashoda Dulala Jai Jai Deva Hare Radha Krishna Govinda Gopal आलिया विषधर गंजन गण आलिया जनकसुता कृतभूषण दूषण जनकसुता
Krishna's 10 incarnations. We will hear about Okay, let me open my mic here. So we will sing it together when we find it.
Jaya
pass out?
in ecstasy, no. We're going to pass out these books because we have two very beautiful songs coming up from Srila Jayadeva Goswami's Gita Govinda. And these are songs of separation of Sri Radha. In the morning.
Yeah, one more thing.
Is there one more?
Dina. Dina. Everybody has their book. Everybody's waiting. It's a big challenge.
What's the song?
Lalita Lavanga Lata, page 191.
Depends on what book you are.
Do Lalita Lavanga.
Going to Labunga and something with an R. What's it called?
What, yeah, we have the video?
Do you know how to sing it?
What? No, we're not gonna do Lalita Lavanga.
Yes, we are.
We are? I don't remember how to sing it. Rati Sukasani. I do Rati Sukasani.
I'm saying.
It's not easy.
It's fine.
It's really easy.
What page?
192.
Okay.
91.
It's not enough.
It's 354, it's here.
What's in the big book?
It's in all of them.
First he's doing the.
Oh, sorry. What's that?
What page?
What page, what book?
What's the name of the song?
Rati Sukasari.
Rati Sukasari.
You singing a different one?
Yeah, Rati
The Lavanga is
Sukasari.
not enough for this one.
So which one is it?
Rati Sukasari.
Rati Sukasari and the black book is 192.
In the new golden book, Rati Sukasari is in it on page 354.
Well, what do you know?
I don't know, this song, I haven't sung it so long. I can't remember.
Rati Sukasari.
352 is me.
So sweet. No, it's not a special beat. I think we should play it.
Is there a translation?
Rati Sukasari.
I don't know that. Sweet.
Rati Sukasari. Ratamadhisari.
Getting close.
Madana Mano Haradesh.
I think I can remember it.
Rati Sukasari.
Madana Mano Harave
That's how we don't sing it. Oh, what? Is this us though?
Okay. Can you play the flute at the
Oh,
same
that's
time?
from. But it's somebody else.
Someone else sing.
I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be the same.
Somebody singing
It's not
it?
a YouTube.
Could just go like
Yeah,
this.
just play it on the bit.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like that. Why didn't we ever make a recording of it though?
Which one are we doing?
That's kind of it's the same key.
Well, how about if we sing that one first with her, and then when we do Rati?
I mean, it's the same key, yeah.
So how about if we do that? How about if we sing with her first?
Let's just do one or the other. I'll be singing with her and then sing it again.
Did
No.
you remember?
There's two songs.
It's basically like that. It's not that deep though. Not that big that deep.
Sounds like Chinese.
Yeah.
What song was that?
Nice.
The
So
same
how
song,
about,
Rati
can we make her loud and sing with her? And we can sing.
Should do it like this. Should do the chord response. Yeah, this is the
You know what I'm saying?
It'll probably get some more if we added.
Are you ready to start again?
What song is this?
This is Rati Sukasari.
Oh, that's it.
Rati Sukasari.
Never be late.
Feels like he's on first.
This is the refrain.
Yeah.
If we do the refrain.
Nina Payodara Parisaramadara. Rati Sukasare Kartama Visare Mananamano. Pasajivane Vanamani.
Tripunimake Vishnudoram Mukaramakiram Jaramantiram Tripunimake Sarasati Kunjam Satina Kunjam Shilaya Nila Vichora Ira Samile Jamuna Tire Asati Mane Vanamani Shri Jaya Deve Krita Harise Vanati Paramaniyam Ramulita Hilayam Harimati Sarayam Ramulashtrita Kamariyam Rasamile Ramunati Asati Bane Vanamani
Beautiful, that's pretty amazing. You can see why they don't have the translation in their book.
I did the Swami.
Jai.
The Maha Mantra for a few minutes.
Ah.
How about that separation tune? What do you call it?
The Australian melody?
Australian melody, you know it?
Can somebody hum it? I haven't heard that for ages.
That was all the program in itself, wasn't it? Because it was like that.
Do you want the knife in the stand or?
No, I just did it in my hand. I can control it. That's good to control, that's why I can hear it. Together. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmitsamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadaraye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namah Yam Tabrajantam Anupektam Apeta Krityam Vaipayano Virakataruvajuvava Putreti Tammayataya Tarovo Vanidus Tam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Bhaktya Vinay Aparadalakshay Tasya Kamari Tarangamare Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapadyam Prinde Namaste Sharanarvindam Tavaivasmi Na Jivamitam Vina Iti Vidyaya Radhe Tam Nayamam Sharanantike. First I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Dikshikurudev. Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Astotra Sat Shishimat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. And the same unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Shikshigurudev. Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Astotra Sat Shishimat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj. And also to Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj, whose appearance day was yesterday, we had the fortunate to observe. And to Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Ballabh Tirtha Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Dwait Madhav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj, and our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and all his divine associates, and especially today to Sri Jayadev Goswami, whose appearance day it is today. Disappearance day it is today, and Sri Lokchandas Thakur, whose disappearance day today. And we didn't sing Jayanalo Premadana, so maybe we can do that later. So first we'll begin with the life of Sri Jayadev Goswami. This painting that you see of Sevakunj here was manifested from the mood of Jayadev Goswami. This, Gurudev said, hundreds of thousands or millions of pastimes fit in with this, but the basic theme that Krishna is surrendering to the lotus feet of Sri Radha is described in Sri Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda, which we will read a bit of in a bit. So first we'll read from Srila Bhakti Balatirtha Goswami Maharaj's very beautiful, auspicious, full of blessings book called Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and His Associates. And this painting here, which we see in brown and white as the opening picture of this chapter about Jayadev, this is the second picture of the Krishna consciousness movement in the West. This is the second Indian print that our Srila Prabhupada gave me to copy and make very large for his first Sankirtan temples. First in New York, then San Francisco, Boston, and others. Jayadev lived a long time in Navadvip. He was born in the 11th, different opinions, 11th century, 12th century, but it was way before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. He lived for a long time in Navadvip during the reign of the king of Bengal, Lakshman Sen, making his home not far from the king's palace. At that time, the king's chief scholar was Govardhanacharya. According to the Ashutosh Webb's Bengali dictionary, Jayadev was Lakshman Sen's court poet. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur writes in his Navadvip Dham Mahatmya that Lakshman Sen was delighted when he heard Jayadev's hymn to the 10 incarnations, Das Avatar. You sang that all very beautifully together. The glorification of Krishna's 10 avatars. His fish incarnation, his boar incarnation, his, what else is there? Tortoise, lion, half man, his dwarf brahmana, Brigupati Parsaram, Lord Buddha, Kalki, and here are the small pictures, and if you'd like to see the big pictures, they're all in this Transcendental Coloring Book of the various incarnations. So why is it that in such a book as Gita Govinda, which is full with only the amorous pastimes of Radha and Krishna, separation and meeting pastimes, and you could see, those of you who glanced over the translation of the Dear Samira song that we just sang, how amorous and confidential it is. So why, in the beginning of that book, would we... I'm ready. Now you can all applaud that I'm getting Sukritis here, thank you. So why, in the beginning of that ever so amorous pastime book, would we hear about these 10 incarnations? How Parsuram killed with his axe 21 generations of Kshatriyas, making 5 big lakes of blood. Or Nrsingadev ripping apart the chest of Hiranyakashipu. So, Srila Gurudev is so merciful that he explains why. In his Janmastami, because on Janmastami, Srila Gurudev regularly explains the very, very deep, profound meanings of the song Shrita Kamala, which is also at the beginning of Gita Govinda, and we'll also read Srila Gurudev's explanation of that song, which might make your hair stand on end. But first we're reading Srila Gurudev's Janmashtami lecture in Mathura in the year 2000. Why Jayadev would put this song about the 10 incarnations. Does anybody know why?
I have a guess.
Yes?
My guess would be that Krishna's Vasavaisaha and all the different incarnations and would serve servitorship towards Krishna. So
Haridas Prabhu is saying because Krishna's Rasa Vaisaha, he enjoys all the different rasas, and the incarnations are servants of Krishna.
in the mood servitorship to Krishna.
How are they in the mood? They are Krishna.
Yeah,
Keshavadrita, Narahari Rupa.
but they're subservient to Krishna's desire.
They're, what?
But different devotees desire different relationships and
They're parts of Krishna, is what I think you mean. They're plenary portions or portions of plenary portions, yes. And because different devotees desire different relationships according to their swarup or intrinsic taste that they received at the time of their coming into existence, so to speak. Therefore, Krishna reciprocates through the different incarnations. That's a good answer. It's a very good answer. There's another yes.
Is that just like in Bhagavatam, there's a step-by-step deepening, getting to higher rasas, but also getting to purifying more and more of the stuff in the way of our being able to approach.
So Nrsimha Prabhu is also offering that because Krishna is the highest, he, even in the Bhagavatam, first we read about his other incarnations so that we can get prepared, is that what you're saying? To come to understanding Krishna. Very good answer. Without understanding that greatness of Krishna, what I'm hearing from both of you, how he appears in these different, very powerful ways, then what is the meaning of Radha loving him? Like if she just loved the janitor, what would be the big deal about her? And if only a janitor loved her. But if this person who became these incarnations and Mahavishnu breathing in and out universes is madly in love with her, that shows an inkling of how great she is. And here's another reason that Srila Gurudev gave for any of you who have not read the back of the coloring book. So why is Jayadev Goswami, who's so absorbed in Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes, beginning his Gita Govinda with a description of the 10 prominent avatars? So if a person, as Haridas Prabhu pointed out, Krishna is Rasavaisaha. He is the embodiment of all ras. Ras is so sweet, isn't it? But if a person eats sweets for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner, he will not appreciate them. However, if he first takes something bitter, salty, sour, and savory, as Nrsimha Prabhu is pointing out, then when he tastes the rasa malai, he thinks, oh, this is the king of all preparations. So Keshava Drita Dasa Vida Rupa, Krishna himself has appeared as these 10 incarnations. Sri Jayadev Goswami has glorified the astonishing pastimes of these incarnations. Why? As you both said, to enhance our appreciation of Krishna. Just imagine, there are 20 mighty wrestlers, all assembled to compete together. Can you picture that? These big, strong Chandramastic types? And they're all there in the ring to compete with each other. Now, once all the wrestlers have been defeated, and only one is left standing, we're then able to appreciate that person's power and expertise. But if you were to meet that same wrestler just standing on a street corner, you couldn't really appreciate him. But seeing how much superior he is to these others, then you can appreciate him. So without seeing how he defeated his opponents, it would not be possible for us to recognize his marvelous ability. So for the sake of attracting those of different stages of spiritual development, Srila Jayadeva Goswami begins Sri Gita Govinda with the gradual evolution of the theistic conception. Not everyone will be attracted to Rasa Leela. One's first attraction may be to Matsya, as you stated, to Kurma, to Nrsinga. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed pastimes in many forms to attract everyone and give mercy to all. Now we'll go back to Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj's description of his life. So you heard that Jayadeva Goswami was living nearby to the king's palace. And the king heard about his beautiful hymn to the Das Avatars. So he really wanted to meet Jayadev, but he's a big king, and he knows that saintly renunciates are not very eager to meet kings because they're generally materialistic. So he went disguised, incognito, this big king, to Jayadev's house, and when he saw him, he noticed that Jayadev possessed all the characteristics of a great and powerful spiritual personality. Deeply impressed and attracted, the king revealed his identity and invited him to come and live in the royal palace. Jayadev was leading a very renounced life and was therefore unwilling to live in such an opulent environment. He told the king that he preferred to live in Jagannath Puri, that if the king would keep bothering him to live there, he would just move to Jagannath Puri. This is very fortuitous of what will happen in the future. So Lakshman Sen was disappointed, and he quickly suggested that he take up residence just in the village of Champahati, saying that there was a place suitable for a person who wished to lead a meditative life. He also promised him that he would never come to disturb him again, unless, of course, he was invited. When Jayadev agreed, Lakshman Sen had a cottage built for him in the village that was formerly known as Champahata. And Champahata is one of the places within Koladweep where Srila Gurudev has his temple, where we all visit yearly for Guru Purnima. What's the name of the temple? Sri Keshavji Gaudiya Math. And every year we go to Champahata and see the place of Jayadev Goswami. It was in this village that Mahaprabhu's associate, Dvija Vaninath, received a vision of him in Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga means millions of years ago. Jayadev appeared like maybe 600-700 years ago, but there was a Brahmin named Dvija Vaninath who lived a million years ago in the age of goodness called Satya Yuga. And he used to worship Radha Govinda. And he used to live in this place, Champahata, and he used to pick champak flowers and offer them to Radha Govinda. So similarly, and then he had a vision of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu appeared to him in a vision and said that when I come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you will come as my associate. I forget who he became. We'll find out. So, similarly, Jayadev had a vision here in Champahata. First, he saw Radha Madhav, then their combined form as the golden champak color. Champak is a golden flower, form of Mahaprabhu. After the Lord gave Jayadev this vision, he told him to go to Jagannath Puri. Although Jayadev was sad to leave the future abode of his Lord, he obeyed the Lord's command, because Mahaprabhu told him, I'm going to appear right here in Navadvip, but you go to Puri right now. So he made his way to Puri, where it is said that he was engaged as the king of Orissa's court poet. He spent the remainder of his life in the abode of Lord Jagannath, where he wrote the transcendental poem based on the sentiment of love and separation known as Gita Govinda. And Gita Govinda is this book here, which I have in my room if anybody wants to borrow it. I only have one copy, unfortunately. And we'll be reading from this in a little bit. Indeed, Mahaprabhu told Jayadev, while giving him the vision in Navadvip, that after appearing there, he would take sannyas and go to Jagannath Puri, where he would relish that same Gita Govinda. Just like it was so beautiful the way that lady was singing it, with all the musical instruments, wasn't it? Just like made you feel like you were there. Further information about the life of Jayadev is found in the preface of the Calcutta Bashumati Sahita Mandir edition of Gita Govinda. And there's a quote from that. Sometime prior to the writing of the book Alankar Shekhara, in which Jayadev is mentioned as the court poet of the king, Sridhar Das, the son of one of the chief courtiers of Lakshman Sen, included many of Jayadev's verses in his anthology of Sad Ukti Karnamrita, citing a work named Amiyaba Kavya. Now this next section is about Jayadev's marriage, which is also very transcendental. According to legend, Jagannath himself, legend doesn't mean it didn't happen. Jagannath himself ordered Jayadev to marry his wife, Jayadev's wife, Padmavati. The story is told in the Vishwakosh as follows, because Srila Bhakti Balatirtha Maharaj wouldn't write something down if it was just legend. Yeah. So it has to be real. It means according to traditional came down. So there was once a Brahmin who was without offspring. A son. Finally, he and his wife had a daughter, and they named her Padmavati. When she came of marriageable age, the Brahmin brought her to Lord Jagannath to offer her at his lotus feet. When he saw them, Jagannath said to the Brahmin, I have a servant whose name is Jayadev. He has given up family life and has dedicated himself to chanting my names. Give your daughter to him in marriage. That sounds strange, doesn't it? But they turned out to be an amazing couple. You'll see why. The Brahmin took his daughter to Jayadev and asked him to marry his daughter. However, since Jayadev had no desire to get married, he refused. The Brahmin then told him that it was Jagannath himself who had arranged the marriage, and without another word, he left, leaving his daughter behind. He had to follow the Lord's order. Jayadev found himself totally unprepared for this situation and told me, the girl, tell me where you want to go and I'll take you there. But you cannot stay here. Padmavati started to cry and said, my father brought me here to marry you on Jagannath Dev's order. You are my husband. You are my all in all. If you do not accept me, then I will fall down at your feet and die right here. And she was able to do that. She was so chaste, you'll see later, she was able to do that. You are my only hope, my Lord. So the poet and scholar Jayadev could not abandon her after such a heartfelt plea, and so he became a householder. So the Lord helps, next section is called, The Lord Helps Jayadev to Write Gita Govinda. And this is the story of how, the story behind this painting, you'll see. Jayadev took up the worship of Narayan Didi, and in the waves of love he felt for him, began writing Gita Govinda. With its incomparable ambrosia. It is said that though Jayadev was responsible for all the moods and sentiments that appear in Gita Govinda, he had some reticence, some resistance about writing that Krishna fell down, as you see here, at Radharani's feet. You can see here, Krishna's flute is at her feet, which is his prized possession, which controls all the gopis. He put that at her feet, and he sang to her, I'm even surrendering my flute to you. What more can I give you? Please, here he's explaining. So, when Jayadev left the house, Gurudev explained that Jayadev told his wife that I have to go, when this verse was coming, Smaragavila Mama Shirashi Mandanam Dehi Padapalavam Udaram. I'm burning up, Krishna is telling Radha, weeping. Right, Jay? I'm burning up in the fire of Cupid. Only if you put your lotus feet on my head and give me your mercy, forgive me for any offense that I made, like by being with another gopi, then, only then, will this fire be put out. So he couldn't write that, because he was thinking, now Radharani is his subordinate, she's his devotee, so how can he bow down to her? Because he didn't really write Gita Govinda, it was coming in his trance. It's his, Gita Govinda is his Samadhi Pasya, the book that he wrote in Samadhi. So he left, he said, I have to go take a bath in the sea and think about this. So he left his house, take a bath, and Lord Jagannath, Krishna himself, came inside, disguised as Jayadev. And he opened the manuscript and completed the verse. He had started Smaragavila Kandanam Mamashirashi Mandanam. Then Dehi Padapalavam Udaram. Be merciful and put your feet on my head. You couldn't write that. Make the noble blossom of your foot an ornament on my head, as it dispels the poison of love in separation. So Padmavati was naturally surprised to see her husband come back so soon, from his bath, because the ocean was a bit away. She asked, what are you doing here? You just left a minute ago. The disguised Jagannath answered, I thought of something I forgot to write on the way. I was afraid I might forget it if I didn't come back and write it down now. So not long after Jagannath left, the real Jayadev returned. This time, Padmavati was really astonished to see him. And she said, you just left to go and take your bath. You just came back, and then you just left, and now you finished the whole thing and came back so quickly? I'm beginning to wonder who that was and who you are. Jayadev was clever enough, so you can see what a special person Padmavati is, that Jagannath Krishna himself came and talked to her. So Jayadev was clever enough to guess what had happened, and he went and looked at his unfinished text and saw the words that the Lord himself had written. The hair stood on end all over his body, and tears came pouring from his eyes. he called Padmavati and said to her, "You are so fortunate. Your life has been made worthy. You have had the good fortune. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Shri Sachinandan Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Shri Gauranatai Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Ho." You had the good fortune to see the Lord himself. I am so lowly that I did not have that opportunity. And then they both fainted. The next section is called, I want to skip though. I want to skip because we already talked about Padmavati. So this, I'm jumping to the, and then we'll go back. Can we have a little extra time today in Dupati Prabhu?
Time do you need? It's another half hour.
Yeah, at least. So Jayadev's wife became a close friend to the queen of Orissa because he was the court scholar. In those days, the practice of sati, where a wife would enter the funeral pyre along with her husband, was an accepted custom because the fire of separation for the husband, she was so chaste, was greater than considering walking into the fire. So it was easy to walk into that fire. After her brother's death, the queen was mortified that her sister-in-law would have to die on the funeral pyre with him. Padmavati said to the queen, "A faithful wife's life heirs leave her body the very moment that her husband dies anyway." So when the queen heard this, she decided to test Padmavati herself. One day she announced to Padmavati that her husband Jayadev had suddenly died. So as soon as this news entered Padmavati's ears, she died. Isn't that amazing? Her sudden death shocked the queen, who began to cry out of a sense of guilt for having caused her death. Then the king went to Jayadev and begged him to return the life of her corpse. So the great devotee Jayadev whispered the name of Krishna into his wife's ear, and she opened her eyes as though she had just awakened. So upon seeing this manifestation of both Jayadev and Padmavati's glories, the king and queen, as well as their courtiers and servants, paid obeisances at their feet. Now we'll go back chronologically. So, Jagannath's love for Gita Govinda. Well, this is another amazing. His whole life is amazing. There is a legend told in Jagannath Puri that there was a flower gardener's daughter who learned Gita Govinda and would sing it with great emotion. Jagannath was attracted by her singing and would go to listen to her, only returning to the temple after she had finished her singing. One day when the king of Orissa came to see the deity, he saw that the Lord's body was covered with dust and the clothes filled with thorns. He asked the pujaris what was the reason for his disheveled condition, but no one could explain how it happened. So the servants of the deity were afraid that they would be punished. But that night, Jagannath appeared to the king in a dream and explained that no one was to blame. He had gone to listen to the gardener's daughter and had become covered with dust and thorns while hiding in the garden. The king was struck with wonder by his dream and immediately sent for the gardener's daughter to be brought to the court in a palanquin. After making inquiries from her, he decided that she should sing for Jagannath in the temple, so Jagannath couldn't leave, rather than obliging the Lord to leave and get dirty. So this was the beginning of the tradition of the temple engaging girls who were named Deva Dasis to sing Gita Govinda for Jagannath's pleasure. So then, I'll tell the story that Gurudev told if it's not here in this in this section. Haribol Madhurya Leela, thanks for coming. What's your daughter's name?
Jamuna.
Jamuna, Haribol Jamuna. So, in the last 12 years of his Leela, Mahaprabhu was absorbed in Radha's mood and constantly relished the hidden spirit of love, her hidden spirit of love. During this time, he would savor the songs of Gita Govinda. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita saying the same thing. Day and night the Lord would speak as though he were Radha meeting Uddhav. He would also relish the poems of Chandidas, Jayadev, Gita Govinda, and Vidyapati. He was never pleased to hear books or verses that contradicted Siddhanta. Siddhanta means conclusive philosophical truths. Nor did he like hearing rasabas, an improper mixture of devotional sentiments. It was the practice of Swarup Damodar Goswami to examine all the works of literature that anyone would write to find out whether their conclusions were correct before they got to read it to Lord Chaitanya. Sri Swarup Damodar used to make Mahaprabhu very happy by singing the songs of Gita Govinda, Chandidas, and Vidyapati. Vidyapati and Chandidas are poets, self-realized poets, who also sang songs in the mood of Radha. Swarup Damodar's songs reflected the moods that the Lord felt. Like whenever any mood of Mahaprabhu would arise, in the mood of Radha, like in meeting or separation, Swarup Damodar immediately had a song ready to sing in that mood, to heighten it even further. The Lord returned to external consciousness for a moment and told Swarup to sing some sweet songs. Swarup Damodar sang one of Vidyapati's lyrics and then songs from Gita Govinda, which the Lord greatly appreciated. So there's what Gurudev told about Jayadev was that, well, one of the things, and incidentally, one of the songs of Gita Govinda is Radharani feeling separation. Many of the songs are Radharani's feeling separation from Krishna, and in her feelings of separation and describing that separation, he would be more and more present with her by her words. Just like when a pure devotee chants, Krishna is there dancing on the tongue. What to speak of when Radharani is chanting. So, these Devadasis were still singing when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was present. And Ramananda Rai, his secretary, who's his assistant, who's also Vishaka in Krishna Lila, Radharani's one of her most intimate companions, Vishaka, she became Ramananda Rai in Mahaprabhu's Lila. And Ramananda Rai was so advanced and transcendental that one of his services was to bathe and dress and train these Devadasis how to sing. Imagine. And he was just like a wooden log. He was like no vikars or transformations of like when a guy sees a girl or vice versa, then you go mad. But even though he was bathing and dressing and training to dance and training with the facial expressions and bodily expressions to fit the mood of Gita Govinda, nothing, he was like a log. So now we'll go to the pastime, which is also extremely interesting, of Jayadev and the robbers. This is really going to be amazing for you. Many other such marvelous and anyway, I forgot to tell what happens. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this Devadasi singing, he just thought it was like the manifestation of Gita Govinda, and he started running to embrace that singer. But he's a sannyasi, if he had embraced that young girl, he would have then jumped in the ocean and committed suicide. Because it's such a mortification for sannyasi to do that. But he was running towards that girl, not realizing who he was running to. So when his servant Govindadas saw that, he started running after Mahaprabhu. Stop, stop! But he didn't hear. He was just so maddened by that sound. And finally, as he got closer, he said, "It's a girl!" And then Mahaprabhu stopped and he embraced Govinda and said, "He saved me. I would have had to jump into the ocean and commit suicide." Okay, so anyway, we'll jump on to the robbers. So many other marvelous and miraculous, and we can see how wonderful these Devadasis were, that their voice and emotion in their voice would attract the Lord like that. And it was Ramananda Rai, who was Vishaka in Krishna Lila, who trained them. So interesting. So Jayadeva and the robbers. Many other such marvelous and miraculous events were scattered throughout Jayadeva's life. He used to serve his deities Radha Madhav in a trance of divine love. It is said that just as a devotee dedicates himself to the Lord also dedicates himself to his devotees. One day, as Jayadeva was thatching his roof, under the merciless midday sun, he was putting straw to create more shade. Jagannath saw his devotee's discomfort and decided to help him quickly finish the work by handing him the rope needed. He was handing it to him, and Jayadeva didn't even know who was handing him the rope. Needed to bale the straw and removing the finished bundles and placing them on the roof. Jayadeva thought it was his wife who was helping him, because she was down there and he was just taking them. But when he came down the roof, after finishing much earlier than expected, he saw that no one was there. He asked his wife, and she told him that she had been busy elsewhere at the time. He was curious about what had happened, but struck with wonder when he went into the Didi room and saw that Madhava's hands were black. Oh my God. From handling the straw. He was thus able to understand that it was Madhava himself who had come to help him thatch the roof. He fell down before the Lord and started to cry. On another occasion, Jayadeva wished to put on a festival for his deities, but he was short of money. So he decided to travel in order to collect some funds by making use of his poetic skills. A perverted reflection of what you see on the roadsides. On his return, a perverted reflection is what you see on the roadsides. On his return journey, he was stopped by a band of thugs who not only stole his money, but cut off his hands and his feet. Did you hear that, Gaur?
No.
These robbers cut off his hands and feet and threw him down in a well to die. Because now he had collected all of his money. Are you nervous?
He asked why.
Why?
Yes, I also wanted to ask
That's how
why.
thugs are. They don't have any reason. They just love to steal from people and then destroy them and leave them to die. That's how bad people are. That's why we need to preach, right, Guranga? That's why you go on Harinam and play the little drum, to help all those thugs out there.
Syamarani,
Yeah.
is there any acharya has given some reason or some teaching in that story?
Well, we're going to come to that.
Awesome.
So, So where are we? Despite the pain, he shouted out the names of the Lord as loudly as he could. After Jayadeva had spent 3 days in this way, the king happened to pass that way on a hunting expedition and heard the sound of the holy names coming from the hole in the ground. The king approached the sound out of curiosity and was horrified to see Jayadev in such a serious condition. He had him pulled out of the well and brought back to the palace, where he had him treated. Under the queen's care, Jayadev gradually returned to health. Both the king and queen were charmed by Jayadev's sweet singing of the Gita Govinda as well as his saintly character. They sent for Padmavati and had her brought to their home to help take care of him. The royal couple heard about Krishna from Jayadev and took initiation from him and started to make their lives successful by service to the Lord and his devotees. One day, the robbers who had attacked Jayadev came to the king's palace, and the plot thickens. And they were disguised as devotees. Did you hear that, Garanga? The thugs were disguised as devotees. Even though Jayadev recognized who they were, he offered them the appropriate honor due to the outward appearance and arranged for the king's hospitality to be extended to them. The robbers, however, did not understand Jayadev's forgiving and generous behavior, and fearing capture and punishment, thought it best to leave without accepting the royal invitation. Jayadev understood their fear and asked the king to give them a large sum of money, an escort, and send them on their way. This is Vaishnava. After they had gone a certain distance, the robbers said to the soldiers accompanying them, "You need not go any further. However, we would like to give you a secret message to convey to the king." Ready? Prior to becoming Vaishnavas, we were the servants of a certain king, who for a very good reason ordered us to murder this priest, Jayadev. That is why we cut off. See, they're admitting that they're the ones who did it, because they thought that Jayadev was telling on them anyway. So we cut off his hands and feet and left him to die. The reason this priest gave us a lot of money and asked us to leave quickly is because he was afraid that the secret would come out. Yeah, this priest, Jayadev, that's why he said to give me the money, because he didn't want the secret to come out of why they had to cut off his hands and feet. So unable to tolerate the telling of such a great lie, the earth herself, because it says in the 8th canto, doesn't it, in the story of Vamandev, that the earth can tolerate many large mountains, right? The weight. But it cannot tolerate the weight of one liar. Yes, indeed. So the earth herself opened up and swallowed the entire gang of thieves. The goddess of earth was unable to support the weight of those sinful liars, so she swallowed them up. As they blasphemed the great devotee of the Lord, they met their doom in the bowels of the earth. And what to speak of their future lives. When Sukracharya, the guru of the demons, told Bali Maharaj not to give the 3 feet of land demanded by Vamandev, Bali answered that he was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. How could he go back on his word like a miser? That's where that came from, about the earth can tolerate many mountains. Once he had committed himself to giving and charity, he substantiated by quoting the earth. And the earth says, "There is no greater irreligiousness than untruth," says the earth. "I can bear any burden other than that of a person who constantly lies." This is 8:24. Can we have another 15 minutes because we haven't read about Lochan Das?
Yeah.
I'm happy to stop this now.
Oh. Did you get his hands and feet back? I'm just
I read somewhere else that that his hands and feet grew back, because he's a magic person anyway.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just couldn't wait for that.
Couldn't wait. Yeah, I can understand. So the servants of the king who had accompanied these robbers were astonished to see them punished for their offense to Jayadev right before their very eyes. When they came back to the king's palace, they told him everything they had witnessed. The king inquired from Jayadev about the robbers, and he told the entire real story and said, "O king, A saintly man does not seek revenge from those who have done evil towards him. Amazing. He attempts to satisfy them by polite behavior. Even so, the Lord's flawless will makes them suffer the consequences of their own sin, as he did in this case. Sri Jayadev Goswami ki jai. Now we'll read about, this is from Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj's, that was a pretty memorable description there, the whole thing. So today's the appearance, Titi, of Srila Lochan Das Thakur, and we were very fortunate to sing, thank you, Disappearance Day of Lochan Das Thakur, and we were very fortunate to sing his songs. So he took birth in Kogram, a subdivision of the Bardhaman district near the Ajay River, in a family of physicians. Being the only child to his parents, his father, Kamalakara, and mother, Srimati Sadanandi, from them he received abundant affection. He was married at a very young age, but was disinterested in married life. In those days, marriages would take place at the age of 5 to 7, that is, you'd be betrothed. So when you came to puberty, when those kind of desires come out, you don't get frustrated. You know, I have my husband, I have my wife. But the bride, of course, would come to reside with her in-laws only after she became a teenager. Such an arrangement is incomprehensible in today's world. He would spend most of his time in Sri Khanda, the preaching place of his guru, who was Sri Narahari Sarakara. Narahari Sarakara, who we read about some time ago on his auspicious Titi, he is in Braja Lila, in Krishna Lila, he's Madhumati Saki, one of the close Sakis of Srimati Radhika. When it was time to bring the daughter-in-law home, the concerned parents, seeing Lochan Das's indifference towards family life, approached Narahari Sarakara and requested him to convince their only son to be a householder. Thus his spiritual master ordered him, accept the Grihastha ashram, and you can do your bhajan within that ashram. There is no loss in this. Like many of you are householders and you're doing your bhajan in your householder life, no loss. Following his order, Lochan Das Thakur proceeded to his in-laws' place to bring his wife home. But he didn't remember the exact location, since he was very young when he got betrothed or married. So he asked a young girl who was passing by for directions, addressing her as Mataji. Later, upon arriving at his in-laws, he realized that it was his wife who he had inquired from. So thenceforth, he treated his wife as his mother because of once mistakenly calling her Mataji. Such was his resolve. So now this section is about his Vaishnava etiquette.
So Didi, that means like in some societies where they call all the ladies Mataji, then they would never be able to get married.
So, Vaishnava etiquette. That's why Srila Bharati Maharaj says we can't imagine such a situation in the world today. Lochan Das Thakur, once, Srila Prabhupada said that in order to respect at a distance each other, the men would call all the women, young or old, my dear mother, and the women would call the men, my dear son. And that would make them not have amorous desires all over the place. So then, when I came to Gurudev, I was going to write an article. I was living in Krishna Balaram Mandir then, and they asked me to write an article on Vaishnava etiquette. So I got the whole article from my interview with Gurudev, and he said that the men and women should offer their obeisances to each other from afar. Means don't associate closely, and only associate on the basis of Harikatha or important service to Krishna. So then I said to him, our Prabhupada said that the men should call the women my dear mother, and the women should call the men my dear son. And then Gurudev said, yes, but when they come very close, you forget mother and son. So cool how the two gurus work together there. So, Vaishnava etiquette. Lochandas Thakur composed a book named Sri Chaitanya Mangal. Around that time, Vrindavan Das Thakur happened to author another book with the same title. So to resolve this, the Vaishnava community renamed the latter's work, that is, not Lochandas, but Vrindavan Das Thakur, to be Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, because it was a bigger book. While the formless composition, that is Lochandas, would keep the name Chaitanya Mangal. And so nobody said, but wait a minute, I want the name, because they were all great Vaishnavas who had great Vaishnava etiquette. So the Vaishnava etiquette, Srila Bharati Maharaj is saying, of those times is noteworthy. Although at the time there were 3 Vaishnavas authoring books on a similar theme, the life and precepts of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they all acknowledged and revered each other's contribution. In fact, Lochandas Thakur has addressed Vrindavan Das Thakur in his own book, Chaitanya Mangal, in this way. I wholeheartedly glorify Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, who enchanted the world with the words of his Chaitanya Bhagavat. The unlimited pastimes of Chaitanya in the Antya Kanda will be described by Vyasadeva in the future. So he's referring to, that was stated by Vrindavan Das about Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who later on would write the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the unlimited pastimes of Sri Chaitanya in the Antya Kanda, that is Mahaprabhu's Sannyas Leela, will be described by Vyas in the future. Meaning he's saying that Krishnadas Kaviraj is another Vyasadeva. Whereas he himself, Vrindavan Das Thakur, is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as an incarnation of the combination of Vyasadeva and a cowherd boy. That is, 2 personalities combined together to make a third in another Leela. Inconceivable. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj writes, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur is the authorized writer on the pastimes of Chaitanya. Without his mercy, therefore, one cannot describe these pastimes. And he says that he's just taking the remnants of what Vrindavan Das wrote, because Vrindavan Das mostly wrote about his earlier pastimes as a youth, before he took sannyas, with a drop of the sannyas. And Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote less about the pre-sannyas and then more about the sannyas. That is, Adi Leela is mostly about his childhood and youth as a householder, and then Madhya Leela and Anja Leela are his sannyas Leelas. And so also he says, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, in the Chaitanya Mangal, Vrindavan Das Thakur has stated in many places the factual truth that Vyasadeva has already described them previously. I don't know what that means. In other words, well, here's what it means. Even though Vrindavan Das Thakur is the Vyas of Chaitanya Leela, he proclaimed that in the future Vyas would write more elaborately about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu as Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, whereas Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that Vyas has already written elaborately the pastimes. But because his book was getting voluminous, he left some remnants for us to write about, for him to write about. So this is how Vaishnava etiquette is to be maintained. Otherwise, one will become overcome with deceit and fall down. So this is about, I hope I have another 10 minutes.
Sure.
Lochan Das Thakur's faith in his worshipable deity. His faith towards his worshipable deity was astonishing. Nityananda Prabhu is his Ashraya Vigraha. That means who he goes to take shelter of, to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Being intensely absorbed in Mahaprabhu, Lochan Das did not speak much about Nityananda Prabhu in his Chaitanya Mangal. Nityananda Prabhu is the Prakash Vigraha, or the immediate manifestation or expansion of Krishna. Just as Krishna manifests himself as Balaram, Chaitanya manifests himself as Nityananda. Thus, first one needs to take shelter of Nityananda. Where's his picture? It's not around here. Nityananda Prabhu. Where?
Extensions of Nityananda.
Who, the gurus? Yeah, all of our gurus are manifestations of Nityananda. Thank you. One cannot glorify Mahaprabhu without glorifying Nityananda. So both Vrindavan Das Thakur and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami have extensively glorified Nityananda Prabhu in their works. Krishnadas Kaviraj neither mentioned nor glorified any of his family members. However, he glorified Nityananda Prabhu, by whose mercy he attained Vrindavan. That's in Adi Leela chapter 5. He didn't do it for his own prestige, but just to acknowledge Nityananda Prabhu's causeless mercy to him. So in retrospect, Lochan Das Thakur felt remorse in his heart for not glorifying Nityananda Prabhu sufficiently in his book, Chaitanya Mangal. So he said, in that mood, he lamented, "Fie on me, fie on me. I didn't glorify Nityananda Prabhu, the one who gives Radha Krishna Prem and Brajvas, residence in Vrindavan." So what did he do? He wrote so many songs about him. Nitayer Karuna Habe, Braje Radha Krishna Pabe. By getting the mercy of Nityananda, one can attain Radha Krishna. So therefore, take hold of the lotus feet of Nityananda Prabhu. My voice is giving out. Can somebody continue?
To read?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you sit here?
Sit there.
I'm manifesting as.
You don't need to sit there.
I'm manifesting as Hari Govinda. Here.
Oh no, I didn't sign up for that. I will read. So it says here, this is the recommended sequence of offering respects. First pay obeisances to Guru, then to Vaishnavas, then Bhagavan. All obstacles go away just by remembering them. What are the obstacles? Anything that checks one's progress in Hari Bhakti is an obstacle. That is why Lochan Das Thakur went on to extensively glorify Nityananda Prabhu through his many kirtans, like Nityananda Mahima, Sochakra, Prarthana, Durlabha Sara, Jagannath Vallabha Nataka, a poetic rendition of Rasa Panchadaya, to name a few. Those kirtans stand testimony to his unprecedented Nistan, Nityananda Prabhu. So, is it just this page, Didi? Or is it?
There's 2 pages in here.
Yeah, it's front and back.
Yeah.
So it says here some of his compositions are Nitai Gunamani, Amar Nitai Gunamani, Aniya Prema Vanya Basailo Avani. In another kirtan, he said, Chedeshe Nitai Nai, Sedeshe Nai Jabo, Nitai Vimuka Jana, Muka Na Heribo. I shall never visit any place where Nitai is absent, and I shall never look upon the face of one who is averse to him.
I think we can stop there because so that it's already late. Thank you.
I just have one question, maybe you can answer. So, we were hearing that about impediments for bhajan. What is an impediment for bhajan? But it seems like sometimes bhajan is an impediment for us to make a living, because if we come to the programs, then we have to take time away from when we could be making a living. So how do we reconcile that?
So the question is, the loaded question from Indapati Prabhu, who is the builder of this temple, who wants everybody to come to the programs, has asked. So we hear about impediments to bhajan, and we want to be free from those impediments, distractions. But it seems like bhajan is an impediment to making a living, then you can't live. If you're absorbed in bhajan, and if you're absorbed in the temple programs, then how are you going to earn your living? Is that the question? Because, what? Streams of Nectar, yeah. Streams of Nectar website, Facebook page. But besides that, who's taking care of us? Who's keeping us alive?
Krishna.
Krishna is the one who created us. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that as the super soul, I am, as a super soul residing in everyone's heart, I direct everyone's wanderings. I direct the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as if on a machine made of material energy. It's Krishna who's sitting as the two birds in the tree, coming with us birth after birth in the 8,400,000 species of life, who's sanctioning our activities, awarding us the results of the activities, waiting for the frantic, fruitive bird who's just enjoying the fruits of the tree of this body to turn to him and be happy. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if you just surrender to me, giving up all other activities, I myself will personally take care of you and protect you. And in fact, therefore don't fear. In fact, there's one story that's mentioned in the purport of the Bhagavad Gita, which is about Arjuna Mishra. And Arjuna Mishra, he was very poor, and he's a Brahmana, and he had a wife. And he used to go out every day begging, and whatever he collected, he would come back and she would cook it, and they would take that as offered to their deities and then take the prasadam. So one day, when he was out begging, he wasn't collecting anything. So while he was out, this young boy came to his house, and he said, "I'm the servant of your husband." And he was carrying, you know how in India...
There was something before.
Yeah, there was a big part.
But it's
Oh, thank you. Thank you very, very much. The devotees helped me with that. So he was reading in the Bhagavad Gita. He was studying Bhagavad Gita, and he was reading that Krishna says, whoever engages in my unalloyed service, I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. And he thought, wow, that couldn't really be true. It must be that Krishna sends some representative or something, but he wouldn't personally come and carry what I lack and preserve what I have. So he scratched it out. He crossed it out with ink. And then he went out begging that day, and he wasn't getting anything. So he was staying out, and meanwhile this young boy came, and he was carrying this, you know how in India they carry this this rod with two things on it? And in the two sacks, he had dal and rice and all kinds of cookable foodstuffs. he said, your husband, I'm the servant of your husband, I'm a disciple of your husband. And he told me to carry this. And I said, it was just so heavy for me, I couldn't do it. So then he struck me with a stick. He struck me with a stick, and look, I have scratches all over my back. And she thought, oh my God, I didn't realize my husband was such a wicked person. So she took the boga and went in there to cook it. She said, you just wait here. I'm going to cook, and you can take prasadam here. So meanwhile, then her husband came back, and she said, how dare you? I thought you were a good person. I see you just beat this boy just because the big load that you gave him was heavy. He was your disciple. And he said, what? I don't have any disciples. Scratching somebody's back? And then she said, yes, come here, I'll show you. He's in the next room. And nobody was there. So then he understood, oh yes, now I understand.
When he entered the room, his Bhagavad Gita was open.
His Bhagavad Gita was open to that very place, and he saw the scratches. Then he realized, oh, I scratched out Krishna's promise, and he came personally with scratches to show me. So if we do Krishna's bidding, if we take shelter of Krishna, Krishna will take care of us. Like Gurudev said, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, she's running after me. Please may I serve you, please may I serve you. And I'm saying, just wait a little.
Okay, but just like he's already such a great devotee of Krishna, he's already getting maintained, but in such poverty. So sometimes we may think that, oh, I'll give up what I'm doing, Krishna will take care of me in the way that I'm used to, how I think I should be taken care of. So Krishna will take care of us, but we have to be prepared that how he sees may not quite gel with our conditions.
What we need from his point of view,
Yes.
you're saying.
Right. Yeah, like he might cancel our Netflix subscription.
Might not be able
Yeah.
to drive a plane.
And also,
Yeah.
if we're also
That
if
bill,
we're,
you have to keep that one, Krishna. Pay that one.
right, and so if we trust Krishna when we're doing bhajan, that's one thing. But if I give up my job and just chant Hare Krishna, and but in the meantime I'm thinking of all kinds of sense gratification, that's not exactly what that means. So Gurudev once, he was so absorbed in his bhajan, this is before he joined the mutt even, when he was young, he didn't go into work that day because he was so absorbed in bhajan that he forgot his body and everything. So then the next day he was worried, oh God, I'm going to go into work, and what if they fire me because I didn't go in yesterday, or what if they chastise me? So then he went into work, and they said, oh, you did such a great job yesterday. We're so proud of you. And then he realized Krishna came in and did his job because he was so absorbed in his bhajan.
Wow.
He got
Gaur
promoted as well.
Yeah, Gaur Premanand.
Oh yeah, camera.
Oh, okay, fried it.
Yasamati Nandana Prajabarana Yasamati Nandana Prajabarana Yasamati Nandana Prajabarana Gopuraranya Jai
श्री गुरु करांगे गंधर्व का गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा बेनो बिहारी जो की जय। श्री श्री राधा गोविंद मधन भोगाती की जय। अस्मरीय परम रतिरु गुरु पार पद्म नित्य लीला पुरुष भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। जय नित्य वैष्णव स्वामी भक्ति वेदांत बामन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य वैष्णव स्वामी भक्ति विज्ञान भारती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य वैष्णव स्वामी भक्ति पार्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य वैष्णव स्वामी भक्ति भागवती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। जय नित्य वैष्णव स्वामी भक्ति पुण्य गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य वैष्णव स्वामी भक्ति रक्षा श्री गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य विष्णु परम सफर जगचार्य स्टोत्र रसाशी श्रीमद भक्ति विराट समय प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री आचार्य केसरी नित्य विष्णु स्पर्श भक्ति प्रज्ञान केश गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। सफारक शिल भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी की जय। श्लोको किशोरस गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। सप्तम गोस्वामी सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। वैष्णव सर्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबू जी महाराज की जय। श्री बाले प्रतिभूषण प्रभु की जय। श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। श्री नरोत्तम श्री वैष्णवानंद प्रभु जय की जय। श्री कृष्ण दास कविराज गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री लोचन दास ठाकुर की जय। श्री जयदेव गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भद्र रघुनाथ श्री जी गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ सर गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री रूप तमरा रघुनाथदारी गोपाल श्री बिंदी की जय। रामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। इनसे कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री राधा शिवासरी गौर भक्ति बिंदी की जय। श्री सचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय, जोगपीठ मायापुर की जय, गंगा देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, पूर्णिमासी देवी की जय, श्री महादेव की जय, शिनोरी धाम गौर मंडल की जय, जय श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपी गोवर्धन द्वारा सुनामक ब्रजमंडल की जय, राधा समकुंड गिरिराज महाराज जमुना देवी की जय, देवी की जय, जय श्री पुरी धाम की जय, मंडल की जय, निशिंग कटुलाल महाराज की जय, जय सुदर्शन चक्र की जय, जय हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, आज के आनंद की जय, रोशन दस ठाकुर शुभ आविर्भाव तिथि महोत्सव की जय, तिरुभाव तिथि महोत्सव की जय, श्री पद्मावती देवी की जय, श्री गोविंद की जय, सभी संग सभी सेवा की जय, जय गौतमानंद।